Revelation chapter 1. Explanation from verse 11 to verse 20. Verse 11. Which said, "Write on a scroll what you see and send it to the 7 churches, to Ephesus, Smyrna, Pergamum, Thyatira, Sardis, Philadelphia, and Laodicea." The voice instructs John to write down what he sees in his vision and send it to the 7 churches in Asia. These 7 churches were real historical churches, and they represent different conditions and challenges that the church faces throughout history. Verse 12, I turned around to see the voice that was speaking to me. And when I turned, I saw 7 golden lampstands. When John turns to see who is speaking, he sees 7 golden lampstands. These represent the 7 churches mentioned earlier, symbolizing the church as a light in the world. Verse 13, and among the lampstands was someone like a son of man, dressed in a robe reaching down to his feet and with a golden sash around his chest. The figure among the lampstands is like a son of man, a title Jesus often used for himself. His robe and golden sash signify his priestly and kingly roles. He is in the midst of his church, showing his presence with his people. Verse 14, the hair on his head was white like wool, as white as snow, and his eyes were like blazing fire. The white hair symbolizes wisdom and eternity, while the blazing eyes indicate piercing insight, seeing all things and judging righteously. Verse 15, his feet were like bronze glowing in a furnace, and his voice was like the sound of rushing waters. The glowing bronze feet signify strength and stability, while the powerful voice, like rushing waters, conveys authority and awe. Verse 16, in his right hand he held 7 stars, and coming out of his mouth was a sharp double-edged sword. His face was like the sun shining in all its brilliance. The 7 stars represent the angels, or messengers, of the 7 churches. The double-edged sword coming from his mouth represents the word of God, which has the power to judge. His face shining like the sun speaks of his glory and holiness. Verse 17, when I saw him, I fell at his feet as though dead. Then he placed his right hand on me and said, do not be afraid, I am the first and the last. John, overwhelmed by the sight of Christ in his glorified form, falls down in fear. Jesus reassures him, reminding John that he is eternal, the first and the last, and that John has no reason to fear. Verse 18, I am the living one, I was dead, and now look, I am alive forever and ever, and I hold the keys of death and Hades. Jesus identifies himself as the one who was crucified and rose from the dead, and he lives forever. He has authority over death and Hades, the realm of the dead, having conquered them through his resurrection. Verse 19, write therefore what you have seen, what is now, and what will take place later. Jesus commands John to write down the things he has seen, the current events, the state of the churches, and future events that will unfold, providing a complete record of the revelation. Verse 20, the mystery of the 7 stars that you saw in my right hand and of the 7 golden lampstands is this. The 7 stars are the angels of the 7 churches, and the 7 lampstands are the 7 churches. Jesus explains the symbols. The 7 stars represent the angels, likely the spiritual overseers or messengers, of the 7 churches, and the lampstands represent the churches themselves. This emphasizes his care and authority over his church.